Okay, I'd like to call the 3-month school board meeting to order for Tuesday, October 8th at 6:32. And if we could all stand to salute the flag, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you roll call, please? Keen here. Kip here.
Call over here.
Old business. Q&A from previous meetings.
The only thing we had was the question about the 80% drop of disciplinary notices, and John did address that in his report. So if you have any further questions during his report, John, then I think we'll come to that.
Okay. And then we had financial questions from 9:10.
Right, and those will be questions on the encumbrances.
Yep.
They should have been wrapped up in the report that you got. If you have any questions on the new report, we'll address them when we get back.
Okay. And then agenda revisions, we have a couple. We're gonna move public input up to before information items in case anybody has things they wanna say about the information items on the agenda ahead of time. So that'll go to right after section 8. And we're going to move section 11E to section 11 right after B, but before C.
And we can eliminate G, the action item.
Okay.
Simply because we have been able to work through accepting the LGC money as a credit. So we do not need to do anything about it.
Oh, good.
BudCon know that.
Yep.
We'll have to let them know that we don't need that time.
I did.
Oh, good. Good. Perfect. All right, so then we'll start. Approval of minutes. Public minutes of September 24th, 2013. The work session. Did anybody have any changes or corrections?
No, I did not.
I did not either. Do I have a motion to approve? Oh.
Motion approved?
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
And then minutes for the public hearing on September 24th.
The only thing I had there, Sue, is, the motion was seconded by Tammy Pitts.
Okay.
Anything else? Do I have a motion to approve as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, and the public minutes of September 24th, regular public minutes. I just had a typo in mine. Section 4, old business, section A, number 1. All members are encouraged to speak freely, though civilly, instead of through civilly.
Yep.
And then, just another typo, it's section 11, under paragraph E, the very last line. It was suggested that the PTA chair or treasurer consult with. And I also had section 8, Roman numeral 8, action items, section B. I have a note that says instead of saying decided to send a letter, change it to suggested the board agree to send a letter.
This is number 8 on your agenda revision.
Yeah. Because I don't think we decided to send a letter, I think.
I didn't see that, what did I see?
Well, you're under 12, not 8.
I'm under 13.
13.
Sorry, yes. I better learn how to read from it.
Time to go back to school.
13,
Yeah, I went back to 8.
Yeah. Sorry, 13. Section B. It said, Ms. Keene and Dr. Cox decided to send a letter to the commissioner we actually suggested the board agree to send a letter.
All right.
It was just a suggestion. That's all I had. Did anybody else have any?
No.
Nope.
I had a question that I noticed as I was going through this. On page 6, as the draft 3, but page 6 at the bottom, under the end of the characteristics of effective school boards, it says, "This will be compiled by Dr. Cox Vito and brought back to the board." I don't remember what it was I was supposed to compile and bring back to the board, so if anybody's remembers, I would appreciate it if you let me know. Was it the list? Do you remember?
Where is this now?
I think it was what is in the minutes here. We're going to put
Just
this
above number
as
5, in non-public, just above number 5. This will be
Right.
compiled.
right. I think it is basically what we worked on as the 12 board operations relationships, put it together as a document.
Okay, I'll cut and paste it with that now. All right.
I don't know why you got assigned that task. But,
Yeah, I must have left it open for a minute.
so do I have a motion to accept as amended these minutes?
Motion to accept as amended.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, group 2, correspondence, anything at all in correspondence?
There is not a piece of correspondence, but there's some information that you need to know, and that is that the Commissioner of Education, Dr. Barry, will be at Sanborn Regional High School on the 15th, which is next Tuesday, at 6:30 p.m. to meet with school boards and superintendents to talk about the Common Core. Any questions that you have, this is a great place to ask them, the concerns that you have about the Common Core. I believe the public is allowed to come and sit in the back. I don't know why they're second grade citizens, but she specifically wants to talk with boards. My apologies. And the superintendents as well, so. almost that.
So where will she be again?
At Sanborn Regional High School.
Okay.
Yeah, 6:30 next Tuesday night. I plan on attending. If anybody wants to go, let me know.
Do we need to sign up ahead of time or just show up?
No, you just show up.
And I did have one thing of correspondence, which I'm gonna give you all a copy of. I didn't have time to make copies before the meeting. It's the call for New Hampshire School Board Association resolutions. This happens every year.
Oh.
It's that time of year again. So I will make copies of all of this for all of you, so that you can read it over and decide if you wanna present anything. It has to come through the board, we have to vote on it. So we do have time, because the deadline's the 25th of October, I think, and our meeting's the 22nd. So we'll put this on the agenda for next meeting. All right? And I just have to remember to give you guys all a copy before you leave here tonight. Presentation, curriculum committee.
Oh,
Would
okay.
that be you, Andy?
I think it's me. And Angie.
Yes.
So I just,
Sure, where you want me? Do you want me to drive the presentation from the
Yeah.
computer?
it's over there. Well, I'll just give a brief introduction.
I can't promise.
And,
I'll try. I trip over nothing, so.
I just want to thank everyone who was so involved in the curriculum committee and all the work, hard work a lot of people put in. You know, Larry did a lot, Larry Dodson did a lot of work, and Angie did a lot of work. And we have people who took minutes and really worked hard on this. We did the final episode of what we had planned is we had done the survey, and their next step was to do a huge gathering at the school, to which we sent out numerous, over 70 invitations. Yeah, and I think 3 people responded. 2 said yes and 1 said no, but we didn't know the budget committee had also planned to come, but they didn't tell us. So I think the real question after we do the presentation, and after what Angie's going to do is she's going to present the results of the survey that we did. And actually this is really apropos, seeing as we'll be discussing the budget very soon.
Right.
So and I think some of the things from the survey we should definitely discuss when we talk about the budget. So I think it's really apropos to actually do it at this time. The other thing is that part of the question is whether the school board wants us to continue with this, but trying to find other ways to get people involved. And one thing that we're thinking is maybe instead of inviting everyone here, that maybe we should have done more outreach as a way to reach people. Because obviously inviting people here didn't work. Even the spaghetti dinner didn't bring people here. So we could, whether people want to, we could use this as a final report, or we can continue to work on it, do outreach to groups within town, do a presentation to groups in town, try and solicit information that way. There was some debate within the committee as to whether it would have been, if we'd done it between the annual meeting and, actually, the deliberative session and the annual meeting, whether we gotten better participation, but there were some concerns of whether it would have been too much about budgets and not enough about curriculum. So with that, I'd like to, Angie did a great job putting this together. So Angie, go ahead.
So really, a lot of this information is information you might have already seen when Ms. Randall did the overview of the survey and so forth. So the purpose is really just to kind of give you a synopsis, kind of ground you again with what it is, and then look for some direction from you all at the end of it. So we'll just give you an overview of the objective, the research results, and then next steps. So committee structure, our mission was to build upon the Common Core standards with programs that enhance the curriculum at Ellis School for the educational advancement of our students. There was a group of people who came together, Ellis staff, school board, superintendent, parents, and community members. We met once to twice per month for the past year with this committee, and really tried to decide where we wanted to go. We got grounded on what the curriculum currently was, where it needs to go in the future, and then decided that we needed to really hear from more people out in the community. With this, we did initially a survey. We found it as an inexpensive way to reach a large majority of interested parties, community members, and students' parents. Then we wanted to get a little bit more in depth and reach a broader range, because quite honestly, that survey was the majority of people who responded were parents of the students. So that's why we tried to do the focus group, as Andy had said, to reach more community members. Unfortunately, we had to cancel it. There's some ideas, if there is more interest with the community members and the focus groups, the real decision that needs to be made is, have we heard from those people who really want to be heard from? Have they had their plenty of opportunities to share their information back with us? Or do we need to, once again, try to reach them in a little bit different way? So that's one of the discussions we want to review at the end. Survey key findings. Again, this may be a little repetitive, but I just really wanted to streamline and go through the most pertinent facts. There was 12 questions on the online survey. There was 105 online completed and 4 paper completions. It was available at the library, the town library, the town hall, the school, as well as online. 95 were people who had children present or previously at Sanborn, and only 14 had no children or children who attended another school. Question 5 and 6 were really about the high school preparedness, and this really generated the most comments and the most variety of answers. 65% indicated students are most prepared in reading and language arts. Of the Common Core curriculums, they said they were least prepared in mathematics, science, and social studies. Now, these are people's opinions. They may be based on some testing, they may be based on some word of mouth, their experience or not, but it's at least what people are, their perception, if you will, that's out there, and sometimes perception's reality as well. Question 7 and 8 was around strong support of a foreign language, and then also within the foreign language questions, which language was most preferred. 71% preferred Spanish. Question 9 and 10 was around respondents also interested in other key areas in the school that they felt the curriculum was lacking or could use further development. One was science laboratory with 70% positive responses. The next one was instrumental music, 46%, band at 38%, and engineering at 30%. 5% of respondents did not think Ellis needed any additional course offerings. So it was a small amount, but we still wanted to acknowledge that. And I should take a step back also. The reason why foreign language was called out separately because at one point it was on the ballot separately to talk about foreign language, and there was a lot of discussion and the deliberative sessions around foreign language as well. So foreign language and science laboratory were scored as the highest, and being the most important courses to add according to respondents. And then also respondents felt that the Ellis curriculum most important to prepare students for high school. So basically what they thought was most important for the Ellis school to do for these children when they're entering high school is to have them adhere to standards with a high level of rigor. After that, equally valued were preparation for jobs of the future and being a responsible citizen. Survey insights, some of these comments, really insights and recommendations were made by both the previous superintendent as well as some of the curriculum committee members, if you will. So it's a combination of a few different sources. There seems to be a low community member engagement. There appears to be a disconnect between how Ellis students perform at Sanborn Regional High School and the perceptions of students' preparedness. And what we meant by this is there was a combined board meeting here between Sanborn and Ellis where we had a lot of examples of how well the Fremont students were doing in the high school. So there seemed to be a disconnect of whether that information is getting out or not. And then also, there's some skepticism of, can we actually see the results? Can we see the numbers and so forth? So that was some recommendations of possibly obtaining ranking, testing results of Ellis students versus the total school population to educate the community and parents on that. There was some comments about the curriculum mapping for science that needs to continue based on responses to question 5 and 6, specifically about the interest in not being as prepared in science, and then also the interest for increasing science laboratories. Social studies curriculum needs to be mapped based on comments and the fact that not all social studies standards are currently being covered. And there were some discussions about that, about who sets the curriculum, whether it's the school administration or the school board, or it's the two working together, and how we should facilitate that. And then, as we mentioned before, overall respondents voiced requests for foreign language and a stronger science program based on responses to 5 different questions. So next steps, as Andy had mentioned, is we really need to know where do we go from here for the curriculum committee. There's a number of people who have attended and been very active, and some, have come and gone. But I know that the majority of people who have joined the committee have joined because they wanted to make recommendations, see improvements, help figure out what's needed, or how can we creatively do it, if you will. Even if we might not have the budget, are there different things we can do and learn from? So really the questions are, with the survey results that we had and knowing the attempts that we have made to get additional information, does the school board have enough information to meet their needs? Are the needs really just informational only? Do you want some more recommendations for next steps and actions and kind of a plan of what's next? And based on those answers, should the committee continue with additional research to try to reach more community members? Things that we said, it could be almost like an open forum discussion, maybe not a sit-down dinner, not making them feel like they're going to be in a small group, but just everyone come, almost like a deliberative session where you can speak up. We could redesign the focus groups and make them a little less formal. We could do one-on-one or small group interviews where maybe 2 or 3 people from the curriculum meeting go and meet with the budget committee, go and meet with the folks who work in the town hall, go and meet with different things like that. Or we can just say, we've given the people in the community enough opportunities to comment, and if they haven't, then they really don't feel strongly one way or the other. And then the last thing is, do we transform into a new committee with updated objectives? Working with administration to make specific recommendations to the school board based on survey results and research how to bring those recommendations to life. So I guess right now we're at a crossroads where we have this information and we really need some direction of, do we continue or do we kind of move into an action, or do we sunset and say this is what you need?
Well, normally when you appoint a committee, you give them the mission, or you give them basically the mission of what you want them to accomplish, and then they bring it to the board and make the recommendation, and the committee gets closed. And then the board discusses with those results where like what you just gave us. And then if a new committee is needed for something that would grow off of what we had just done, that's what you would do versus, I think, transforming it into a new committee.
Okay.
I think, that's what's been done in the past. I know that this came about as part of the strategic plan because we needed to know what people thought our kids should know and do. And, so I guess the board has to probably take this information and come up with what we think would apply to the strategic plan as to our next steps. Did the teachers also fill out the survey?
I believe that did the teachers
They're-
have the
They
opportunity
had
to
the
as
opportunity to fill
well?
out, we don't know who filled out, they had the opportunity to fill out the survey.
Yeah, and that's actually another
Right.
comment that was brought up, actually, I think Jen Radine brought it up, was that maybe we should also go around in this, if we do the small groups, should we also talk to the teachers, you know, and get their feedback and input and so forth as well. So I don't know if we can go back to the survey and identify if teachers filled it out or not. I can try to, but I don't know if we have access to any of that
I
now.
don't think we do, no.
No.
Because it was all done on her,
Survey.
I believe there were paper surveys too that
There
were
were
There
dropped.
were only
They were-
4 paper
Okay.
surveys, and
Yeah.
2 of
They
them
were
were
in the
from
school.
parents and 2 were not, yes.
Okay.
She used
But
that
there's
survey
paper surveys,
worksheet.
that's true. The paper surveys were here and
Right.
accessible if they wanted to.
Right, and the
That's true.
teachers also were given the access, told how to get access to it.
Yes, and there was also, that's a good point, because also it was, well, it was advertised, but that would have been the town as well,
Right,
so they
right.
haven't seen them if they weren't
Right.
local. So, yeah. And I think that,
Teachers were on the committee, there were teachers on the committee also.
I think
Martha
that
Abbey came and,
for the majority of the people, myself included, when I joined the curriculum committee, I expected there to be some data research and, you know, trying to get a pulse of the community and what people thought. But then I was also hoping to turn it into action, you know, and then go and say, okay, this is how we can hopefully recommend, and these are the key priorities, and let's help work along with administration to figure out how we can bring those things to life. So I think quite a few community, or the curriculum committee members felt that way. So whether that evolves, in, like you said, not evolves or starts a new committee with that, I think there'll be a number of people who'd be very willing and interested in continuing that work.
in fact, one of the biggest concerns of the committee was whether, once the presentation was made, whether the school board would take it to heart or not.
There was concern
Yeah,
as to
yeah.
whether we would take it.
Well,
forward.
yeah, there's a concern, you know, I mean, the people, I mean, I certainly said I would advocate for it, you know, but people.
Well, they wanted to know, I think
Yeah.
more, it was people wanted to know if it was gonna be actionable, or
Yes.
just nice to know.
If
And I
something
think
was
that
gonna
that's,
happen with it,
yeah,
right.
I think that maybe is more of what
Right.
And I know there's a number of people here from the committee as
Right.
well, if anyone has any
Mhm.
other additional comments or
Right.
questions or.
So this next steps is what you're recommending as the committee, basically, as possible next steps for the board to consider. Okay. So I think that, we should put that on the agenda for a meeting and discuss what we think we should do next. But I'd like to hear from other board members about what they, if they have any questions for the committee or the reps or.
It was a good presentation, I like it, it was very informative. I mean, I'd like to see us take action, some of this, but so further discussion, we'll get that happen, hopefully.
Well, like I said, with the budget coming up, you know, I think it's a, you know,
And one of our goals, I think, is to have one language teacher next year, wasn't it?
well, that's what we're hoping.
It's part of the strategic plan,
Yeah,
I
that's what
believe.
we're planning.
It's in there somewhere, I don't know if it was this year or
I
next
think
year.
it's 14, 15.
I think STEM is too also.
And that, actually, that kind of jogs something, because another thing, we know that, I believe one of the objectives is to get, the certification, for the school district, and if we do,
Oh, you mean the NEAS?
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, we're gonna be talking,
And
that's
then
on
I'm
the
not
agenda
sure
this
if
evening.
this could bring us, you know, closer to achieving that, or could lead us, you know, kind of work towards that objective as well. That's what we're thinking, hopefully whatever this group does would also help
Yeah,
along
very
with that.
pleased.
No, this would almost have to be done before we
Yes.
NEAS certified, at least for the science lab. We know
Mhm.
for a fact that you have to have the science
And it seems
to
like.
get certified. I believe that's the case. So, I think it's great information, I don't think it's gonna die, you know, I don't think it's gonna die here after you present it. I think,
agenda for next time.
right, and I think we have to bring it to the agenda the next time, and I also think we need to look at our strategic plan and see where it fits into the next step.
Okay.
And maybe even adjust the strategic plan accordingly so that we can move forward with whatever we've come up with so far. I asked about the teachers because I think that they play such a key role in knowing what the kids need to know too. And so I wondered if they would have, if there were two sets of data, if you could actually see if it was an agreement or not.
I'm wondering, if you would want us then to, one, survey the teachers to see if they completed the survey, and if they didn't, no way we could at least get them a paper copy to have them manually, fill them out, but still leave it, no names, no, contact information.
I would like to see that
Yeah.
done, just give them the same survey. I don't know if it was parent related, some of it or not, but,
No, it could have been
No.
community members, so if they, answered it that way.
You wouldn't accumulate it, so if they did answer this, that wouldn't be a
Exactly.
problem, but you'd at least know if their results came out similar to what's here.
Yeah.
Could we,
We know how we could find out. The survey asked, are you a parent, are you a community member, did you have children in school? And if it said, are you a teacher or staff member,
See,
then
I
it would
don't
say
think
to
we
them.
can see the breakdown then,
Right.
though
You
now.
know, we won't be able
because-
to see the breakdown, but we would know if they participated.
What percentage?
I'm just wondering, I don't think we can have access to that because that would be under Miss Linga's
Yeah.
Oh,
survey.
I can contact Mrs.
Okay,
Lang.
if you
Yeah.
can maybe contact
Yeah.
and see,
I have
that
all
might
the
be a
files.
source.
Well,
It's probably.
I think it was her private.
it was-
Yeah, I think it was.
It was a private survey, monthly.
Yeah. So, but if you wanted me to contact her and find out what, if she can confirm whether or not teachers participated, and if not, well, in all honesty, also, we gave the community members another opportunity to participate. We just send the survey out anyways and give the teachers another opportunity to
can we sign up
participate.
for the survey monthly free? Can we also get
Oh,
a?
yeah,
give
we
a
just have to
paper?
rebuild it, and
Yeah,
I'll,
I'd say we vote for something much work, can't get paper.
So you're talking about maybe doing
Survey
this,
money is 10
doing this
questions,
again?
that's for free over that, it's.
that or specifically to the teachers, because it sounds like,
Right.
I don't believe the teachers were specifically, requested to participate as a group.
I mean, some were aware.
I think some were aware, but I don't
We
know.
had teachers on the committee,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so they were aware
Well,
about the.
What I'm
about it.
trying to get at is,
Yeah.
would they agree, or would they have some other ideas of what they think needs to happen in the building? That's,
Yeah,
it would be
absolutely.
good information.
Mhm.
So,
And whether it's done through this, or whether that's just, I think that makes sense just to do in general, whether it's under the curriculum committee's guides, or just, getting their feedback and input into the whole.
it'd be nice to tie it in to
Yeah,
your committee before we disband the committee. And is it more than 10 questions? Because I just heard you say.
12.
Oh, it was 10 questions? Okay.
12.
12.
Used to be 10.
Well, I think,
Okay.
but it was, I think it was because of the demographics.
Right.
And the
Okay.
first question was about, who you are.
So,
So,
I
I
don't know.
cuts off at 10.
Mhm.
Maybe one more meeting to do that, and just, you wouldn't have to present again, but just bring it to a meeting for us to discuss.
Okay.
If that sounds good to the board.
Yeah.
So what we're talking about is meeting and putting together a survey for the.
The
sending
same
it-
survey
The
that
same
went out,
survey.
you just
Teachers.
wanna see if the teachers in the building have the same, or if there might be other things that they're thinking of as
Sure.
Should
professionals.
simply just ask John to administer that in the building.
All right.
That means,
And Mr. Sabino, I'm
Yeah.
not sure if you have it or not, but I think I have a copy, so I
But
can
they
either,
could- they
maybe
could
type it
file
into a
it.
Word document or something like that,
so
to
they
get
can,
it back out.
people do it, they can bring it to the meeting.
I would- my forward
Okay.
To this committee.
All right. I think I got a copy of it too. Maybe
Great.
that's already-
I think that would be great. I would
Alright.
agree that would be nice for me.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And everybody else who is on the committee. We're going to move it to public input now, and I am gonna read the policy on public participation at board meetings before we start. And I also need the sign-in sheet if somebody has it. And did everybody get a chance to sign in if they'd like to speak? Did everybody sign the board? This is policy BEDH, public participation at board meetings. The board encourages citizens of the district to attend its sessions so that they may become better acquainted with the operation and programs of the schools, and so that the board may have opportunity to hear the wishes and ideas of the public. All official meetings of the board shall be open to the press and the public. However, the board reserves the right to meet and to adjourn or recess a meeting at any time to discuss such matters as are properly considered in non-public session in accordance with RSA 91-A:(c). 3. Public comments at the beginning of the meeting are to allow community members to comment on the items on the agenda prior to the board action. The board adopts as policy the following procedures and rules pertaining to public participation at meetings. 1. Any individual desiring to speak shall give his or her name, address, and the group, if any, that is represented. A sign-in sheet will be available before the meeting for anyone wishing to speak. 2. The presentation should be as brief as possible. Written remarks are encouraged. The chair will try to limit comments and keep the meeting moving along. 3. Speakers may offer comments on such school operations and programs as concern them. In public session, however, the board will not hear personal complaints of school personnel nor complaints against any person connected with the school system. Other channels are provided for board consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals, which should be referred to the superintendent for appropriate action. 4. Community members should not expect any immediate response to questions or comments. If the board has already taken a position on a topic, the board chair will state the board's position. And 5, copies of the agenda and the various handouts will be available at the meeting in the folder marked public information or on the table. There is also an envelope marked suggestions, comments for the board, where a community member may place a note for the board instead of speaking in public. The board vests in its chairperson or other presiding officer authority to terminate the remarks of any individuals when they do not adhere to the rules established above as to content or time limitation. Persons appearing before the board are reminded as a point of information that members of the board are without authority to act independently as individuals in official matters. So, looks like Angela O'Connell would like to speak.
Thanks. Some of my questions or comments I actually had, I'm not sure, because some of them I believe may be answered by the information items or that discussion. So I'm not sure if if it's pertinent, if I could maybe talk after, or if a follow-up question, just because some of it is kind of talking before you know.
We're looking just for public input,
Okay.
and we don't have another public input after.
Okay. So public input is really, I had questions then around the budget and really about where we are with the guidance that's going to be going to the town. So we understand if we're looking to flat fund it versus next year, increase, decrease, kind of what we're doing with that in regards to, because of thinking about the curriculum committee and how that's going to be fitting in. So that was one of my questions.
That's on the agenda.
Okay.
So if you have something to say about that, what you would like to see done, now's your time.
I always have opinions, but I'm like, and honestly, it's one of those things that I'm not sure if they even need to be shared or if it's going to be, where you all are going with it. But I really hope then that the priority is given to continue to improve the school and improve the education and the environment that the students are learning in. And to that is to better prepare them and make them better citizens for the future success, and that is academically as well as personally. I think it's also some of those things I would wholeheartedly agree, and I know I completed the survey, so the foreign language, the science labs. I would also love to see a portion of some community volunteerism built into the curriculum, things like that. So I would really, encourage that we continue to look at, as tight as budgets are and as much as things are across the board, that we don't cut from our current budget, maybe be more creative with how we fund different programs and different courses. So I guess that's what I had to just say about the budget. I did have another comment I wanted to ask about, was a superintendent search, and I know that's also on the list. So really just saying that I know I have volunteered to be on the committee as well as some other folks. So just to, wherever we are on that, was just looking for an update on that to see kind of what our progress or what our plan of action is. Another thing that I had was the new Common Core. There's been a lot actually out in the media lately about the new Common Core across, I think they're saying 45 states now, plus the District of Columbia. So really kind of where are we preparing for that? And I think that meeting next week might be really insightful. So hopefully give us a lot of direction, so we can meet those needs and preparing for that. And then the last thing, quite honestly, I'm not sure if this is on the agenda or not, so it may fall under the facilities report, but there's been some discussion that's been out in the community about charges being made for groups that will be using school facilities and some changes to that. And so would really like to understand that and discuss that, because I'm not sure what the policy is. I'm not sure where it started, where it should be, where it's going. But really stress that being a small community and knowing the school is the center of the community, and that a lot of people volunteer a lot of time and energy at the school as well as in the community, really hoping that there's no charges that would impede those groups from being, whether it's Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, FAA basketball, things like that. I can give lots of examples where my husband, myself have actually volunteered.
I'll stop you, Angela. Our
Okay.
policy does not charge nonprofit groups for
Okay.
using the facilities. And
Okay,
there has been a
perfect.
little bit of a misunderstanding from some people but our policy reads that we do not charge nonprofit
Wonderful.
organizations.
Okay, thank you. See, that's
And we
exactly
haven't
where I wasn't
ever.
sure. Yep, okay, thank you very much.
Well, there's apparently some custodial fee verbiage where we could charge for custodial fees apparently, but the board can also waive them, and
Okay.
we've never done that.
Okay.
So, the policies are like from 1992. And they're on yellow paper with typewritten notes. And so it hasn't been
white out.
touched forever, but we're going to clean it up. And
Okay.
we understand what you're saying, and I believe the whole board would concur that that's what we've always done for our nonprofit.
Okay, thank you.
I'm
And that's
speaking
exactly
for
where I
all
wasn't
you
sure
guys,
where to
but,
go
you
with
know,
this.
we shouldn't really be answering in public.
Okay, we'll stop you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, so those are my big questions I had, or areas.
All right. Thank you, Angela.
Mhm.
Sue Levine?
Hi, Sue Levine, 72 Road Drive in Fremont. I wanted to reiterate some of what Angela said with regard to the budget guidance. As you're looking at giving the guidance, things that I would hope you'd keep in mind are one, the priority of the foreign language teacher. I know that's a goal. I believe it was for this coming school year, but it also came up in the survey, and it's something that I strongly support. And as well as the science lab. Another piece is class size. I feel like our class sizes at Ellis make for a very positive environment for our children, and I would like to be able to keep that. The retention of staff, in terms of being able to keep the great teachers and staff that we have. Things like giving them the compensation that they deserve, as well as, I know that we voted in some additional money at the last deliberative session, and part of that was for supplies. I've heard some commentary that perhaps supply budgets were not what they were supposed to be or were cut. So I just would like to understand when the community did vote that money in. I know there were some other expenses, but I believe we also gave money back to the town. And as a parent, I'm always willing to donate to the school. I bought books for the school unsolicited, and snacks and whatever the teachers may ask for. I'm always the first one there to do it. But not everybody can do that.
For clarification, the money that you added to the budget is for this school year. The money we returned is from last school year. Just for clarification purposes.
So that's some of my feeling in terms of the budget. I also, on the superintendent, again, where you're bringing that on the agenda tonight, hoping that there'll be some kind of search committee and that there'll be involvement from both the teachers in the school or the staff in the school, bless you, and in the community as well. I also wanted to just briefly say, I wasn't aware of the agenda item ahead of time last meeting rather, on the mission statement, so I didn't know to comment during public input about that. But my personal feeling was that I felt that Mrs. Kidd said it very eloquently. I felt like it was apples and then oranges, bananas and cars. I didn't necessarily feel that the statement jived with the rest of the mission statement, and I think, to me, it has some hint of a political agenda, which I don't feel is appropriate in a school environment. So that's my personal opinion. I just wanted to share that. I'm almost done. Sorry. I know I'm trying to be very brief and respectful. The last thing that I wanted to say, I noticed that there was an item about the board's direction to the superintendent regarding non-union employees, and I've heard some conversation about that. I don't necessarily know all the rules and regulations, so I can't 100% speak to that. What I would say is the position of a librarian, to me, feels like a teacher position where they have classes and they grade, they provide a grade to my children. But beyond that, I think what I would say is looking at a cost-benefits analysis and, again, retention of staff and being in a search position in another year. And then we have a part-time colleague I know in the new guidance counselor, who's been a great partner to me already as a parent, helping me with one of my children. And I would just want to be able to retain these people. And I think just thinking through the lens of the expenses that you have on replacing people versus doing things to retain people, and whether the law says something, but what's the right thing to do. Just because there's a law doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So that's it, and thank you for hearing my comments.
Thank you. Larry Mack.
Larry Mack, 11 Meeting House Road here in Fremont. I'm here representing the Fremont Athletic Association tonight. Had a lengthy conversation with Mr. Safina the other day in regards to policies, and I understand now that there is no charge, janitorially speaking, I guess, for nonprofit organizations. However, there is a policy in place that's a safety and security policy that my understanding has been in place for an awful long time, or has been there for an awful long time. I can only speak to the last 7 years or so that I've been in town and involved with the athletic association. I've never heard of the policy, so I guess my question, one, would be why all of a sudden, I guess, recalling of a policy. It seems like suddenly there's a lot of focus on some policies that I don't know if they had gone away, if they, wherever they had gone to, they weren't out there, they weren't being used. I guess the question is, the way that policy reads,
Which policy?
the safety and security policy, basically, if I'm interpreting it correctly, let's say the Fremont Athletic Association plays basketball on a Saturday. The school, in order for us to utilize the facility, there has to be a staff member here. which goes to the next question of a fee. Because I don't know that you're gonna find staff members from the school who are willing to just volunteer every Saturday, so that the athletic association can come and play basketball. And I think that's part of the talk and the rumor about fees.
I'm gonna answer this quick, but it isn't even on the agenda, so I haven't read the policy, the safety and security policy you're talking about for this evening. I'm pretty sure I probably read it before, because I'm on the policy committee. But this is news to us, okay? We haven't resurrected any policy in particular for any particular reason. Our policies have been in place and remain in place. If there ever is an issue with a policy, we certainly would entertain suggestions for fixing them, but nothing's been resurrected, if you will, or changed in any way. We've had our policy book, which has been in place for a long time. We've been updating it on a regular basis. We've been looking at we've been going through it section by section to update it, because we still have 1992 policies, which luckily still pretty much apply. But it's something we've always updated our policies. It's part of our board's direction and instruction that we are supposed to do that. But there's nothing, we had no intention as a board, and haven't discussed as a board charging fees for things, especially for our nonprofit groups in town.
Can I ask a question on where this, because this is all a surprise, where is this coming from? I don't understand.
Surprise to me too, I don't.
Yeah, why is it?
Yeah,
That's the question.
I think Betsy can cover, like I said, it's not on the agenda, so we'll do it quick.
Okay.
Okay,
And-
very quickly. John got a call from the Boy Scouts who wanted to use the building. He wanted to know what he was supposed to do. I said, look at the policy. John looked at the policy and he told him what the policy was. That's what happened. You have a policy from 1994 that does state, it has fees in it. It does give the principal latitude to not charge fees to PTO, parent advisory groups, student groups supervised by an adult, etc. And then for other groups, he also has some, unless there's alcohol being served, that has to come to the board. That policy though also does say a custodian must be on duty at any time the facility is in use. Waivers of this requirement may be granted by the school board. So he can't give a waiver, but the board can. So whoever wants to use the school without the custodian just needs to ask the board.
Oh, all right.
Alright.
But there is a conflict with ECA that we discovered today. John did bring that forward, so.
Is that ECA or?
ECA, Buildings and Grounds Security, which
Right.
states that a school district employee must be on school grounds during the course of the activity. Only a school district employee will be allowed to open and close the school in the event of such an activity. So the policy committee needs to talk
Yeah,
about
we
this.
will,
Right.
because
It's on the agenda for the meeting this month.
May I add also that KGAE1 needs to be looked at too, because, I mean, I can waive these fees, but under the nonprofits, refer to use of classrooms during the day and when there are custodians on duty. The fees refer to the Pettingill Hall for events, which would be, any kind of civic and other groups, that there is a fee for that. Things like PTA, they're not charged for it. Any school activities, if we had adult ed, that wouldn't be used as well. So it's just, it just needs to be cleared up.
There's some unclarity there, and I think as to speak on John's behalf, I think that as he started to look through it, it became more and more confusing, because there were crosses and various things, and some that are somewhat conflicting, so.
I just wanna say, I don't wanna speak to this policy in particular, but I'm glad you brought it up, because policies, are sort of the lifeblood of the school, and we have to follow the policy. And when policies are conflicting and confusing, that's when schools get in trouble. So I'm really glad that you brought this up, and I know the curriculum committee is continuing to the policy, continue to look through that stuff and bring stuff up to confirmation, the new state policy and federal policy, everything else like that, so I appreciate it.
And just the procedure, so you know how we do this with the policies, is the policy committee is made up of a couple of board members and the superintendent. We do go through the policy book under the direction of the superintendent. They go on to the school board agenda on the second meeting of the month. It tells you what the policy is that we're gonna talk about and what the title of it is. And in the packet, it actually gives us the policies as well. And you have a right as parents and community members to be at those meetings and to, in public input, give your input onto whether you think that policy is written well or if it needs changes. Because there's first reading, second reading, third reading. If there's not much changed on the policy, sometimes we first read it. If nobody's here to say anything about it, we'll just also close it, adopt it. So that's the policy, that's the procedure for it, and those, you'll be notified ahead of time
Yeah,
of the
what-
agenda.
Yeah, when you see the agenda, you see a policy on there you want to address, just make sure you come, speak up. Because we list all the policies that we're going to address under the agenda.
I guess I didn't mean to say that the policy wasn't being enforced, and I hope that didn't come across as rude. My point was just that, we fill out the use forms,
Mhm.
as we're supposed to, because.
That's part of the policy.
Again, that's part of the policy.
Right.
We fill those out and they get approved, and, so season after season after season, we're using the facility, and now this season, the policy is a problem. And that's what kind of comes across as, it wasn't, I guess it was lost in translation somewhere. But now that, it sounds like the policy could take some time.
You're not gonna get a bill
Where
next
are
week.
we right now?
Okay. And I guess that's my question.
Don't worry about it.
Because we have adult, well, I call them over 40, but, they're all over 40. We do have an adult men's league that plays on Wednesday nights, and I think that's probably not as big of an issue because there's a custodian here. But we also have a basketball skills clinic that we're currently running on Saturdays. And we have basketball that, we're having people sign their kids up for,
Mhm.
that's gonna start this winter. And I would just, I guess my appeal would be if there's any way we can get this thing worked out, because anybody who's been through a New England winter knows how depressing they can be. And I think sometimes in the spirit of community, when folks bring their kids to that gym on a Saturday morning, I don't know, they have a cup of coffee, they yell and scream at each other, whatever they're gonna do. But, it is a community thing that happens here in the school, and it's for the better of the community and the kids. So I think, if there's any type of appeal that can be made to get that sorted out and worked out quickly.
I think you can go business as usual, and we'll take care of, the letter
The
of the
issue on the
policy
policy
if
side.
there is any confusion, but
I don't think it's our intention to charge you.
there'll be no charge.
Yeah, and I think if I could say,
Thanks.
it's maybe not only the charge, but also the arranging to have a school member, an employee
We'll take
here.
care of that.
Okay,
I can speak for myself anyways and tell you that I have let myself in many times with Mr. Brown's key, so.
The only thing we
There's a
have to
key
deal with is the
control,
new
he has,
security system.
he has the key control and.
The alarm system is gonna be,
Yeah, we've got to,
Zero
the
bugs.
policy's gonna have to deal with how to handle alarms and keys now that you've got this really super system. And that may be the hardest part, is figuring that out.
Thank you.
You're welcome, keep playing.
Dan, I don't know.
Kayak, yeah.
Hi, Kia?
I don't have any further topic.
Okay.
Kia, Kia, Kaya.
I was gonna do a name, not a.
As soon as you
Hi.
hesitate, I know.
Antia McKee Corsi.
Well, a lot of my concerns, I guess, have already been addressed, but, I guess one question that I have for the board is that I know with the change of the mission statement, the teachers and staff were asked, and I was just wondering why, the public was did not have input to the mission statement change.
It was on the agenda for the meeting. I guess that's when the input would have come in.
But the teachers were asked on a different,
It went on the notes to staff about the meeting.
okay. So they had opportunity to beforehand ask or give input to the board before the meeting. So why did the public not have the same opportunity as the teachers and staff did?
In my opinion, they did because it was on the agenda twice. It was in a public meeting on the agenda twice. That's my opinion. I don't know how the rest
Yeah,
of the
we
board
talked about it
feels.
at 2 different meetings.
Okay. Sean Peralt?
Sean Prawl, 92 Beatty Hill Road. Most of what I have to say was covered as well. I was reading through the old meeting minutes, because unfortunately this was the first meeting I've been able to attend since the summer break. And I've heard a few things, as well as being as a community member, that have kind of concerned me. And reading through the minutes, I noticed that, as others had mentioned, that the guidance counselor and the librarian were, I don't know if they were taking out of the union, or it was suggested that they be taken out of the union. And I guess as a community member, I don't understand that. If you have, I know the librarian just, from last year, I mean, she was doing RTI, teaching the kids different sections, I believe, and I may be wrong, but I believe that her and Mrs. Jackson worked the CSI fun RTI together. So, I mean, obviously they are teaching our students, and the guidance counselors do a lot more, I think, in a small school, as we have than, say, a big high school that has a person specifically for guidance, and then has maybe a health teacher, and then has, a teacher that may cover something else that perhaps we don't have. So I'm not quite sure that I understand why you would take them out of something like that and not put them under the same umbrella as everybody else, to provide them with the same benefits and such that our wonderful teachers have. Another concern, I noticed in the meeting minutes that money was taken and put into the attorney's fees, and I was just kind of wondering what we were spending attorney's fees on, if there was like specific issues that were not covered under, or I should say protected under personal information. And then again, as other members had heard, I had heard that the supply budget for the teachers had been cut, and that some were having a hard time finding the supplies or weren't notified that they were cut. And I had heard that the reason that it was cut was due to the bus fees coming in higher than what was anticipated, but when I read the minutes, there was a $5,760 savings in the transportation line. So I'm not sure if that was just miscommunication and being out in the community and things get changed, or if something got crossed. Like other people, I was concerned with the superintendent and what was going to happen with that position, how long the interim superintendent position was going to be held, if that was all year, if you were planning on having input and a job search and to set up for next year, or if I just didn't know what was happening with that. And I was hoping as a community member to learn more of where the money that we voted back in the deliberative session was spent. I realized that it was general operating budget, and once it was voted back in, it was kind of, I don't wanna say fair game, it kind of sounds like you're just gonna go and spend it the way you want. But I would, as parents, we had kind of specific ideas and thoughts that we felt as the, being involved in the school, where it would fit in, and the things that we were hoping to see, and I would like to see that, where that money went, and that kind of stuff. And then, and just as a personal thing, I noticed that the middle school kids were getting badges, and I didn't know why that was, because I thought they had Eagle cards, and I guess I was kind of just on that, because I have a middle schooler, wondering where that fit in. And I didn't know if that was with the new security system and that kind of stuff. I don't know, it just said middle school kids will be wearing ID badges.
Oh, that's from the minutes you're talking about?
Yeah, I was just, when I was going through the minutes, that's kind of what I was. Oh, okay. So, yeah, new company, I believe. I think that's pretty much all I had, just,
Okay, thank you, John. The guidance counselors and librarians is on the agenda this evening, so you'll hear more about that. Attorney's fees were a transfer approved by the board at the last meeting, and it was for negotiations, because we didn't use attorneys last year and we're using attorneys this year,
Is that like contract negotiation?
for both support staff and teachers.
Okay,
They're both up this year.
okay.
Both of the CBAs are up. Where did the money go? The 171, I think it was 852, roughly, that you guys added from the floor. We do have a list of that, and we can certainly publish that.
That would be great.
We
Um,
did, I thought we already published that.
Well, we can publish it again. We
I
can-
honestly, I didn't see it and I didn't know if it was somewhere that I just wasn't looking.
That's all right. We'll just make sure it's in the minutes for you, okay?
That'd be perfect.
And, okay, that's all I have for that. Let's see, Francis Wells.
Hi,
Hi.
I'm way back here, I need to stand up so I can see you. So,
Where do you live, Francis?
I live on 51 that lane, thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
So, I suspect that it may have been my group that kind of started this issue with the fee in the school. And I just want to say, having heard the discussion so far, first of all, I'd just like to say, the kids in our Cub Scout pack, really, we host a couple of, or use the school for a couple of events per year. One is the Pinewood Derby, where we have this massive track and the kids build these wooden cars and, some of them may all get all the way down to the track. But the kids have a great time, and Cub Scouts is really an organization that is, I feel has, the mission of the Cub Scouts is really well aligned with that of the school, and it's really for the betterment of the kids. And I just want to, I'm relieved to hear that the board supports continued open access to the building in order to host events like that. And the fact that you're committed to working on getting the legal mumbo jumbo worked out so that can continue to happen. And that's really all I came here to say, and I just thank you for my time. For your time.
Okay, did I miss anybody? All right.
I stepped in late, but I'd like to ask a question.
Hi, Jeff Rowell, where do you live?
Sandown Road.
Still.
I did step in late, so you might have covered this, and I apologize if I'm rehashing something you guys already said, but with respect to science curriculum, I'd been in touch with Michelle prior to her departure, and she had indicated to me that she was done with the curriculum standards for science pretty much. She worked on it a lot last year, at least that's what was communicated to me. So I was expecting when the school year started to see that kind of rolled out, and my question is, where does that stand, and is that pretty far along right now? That's my first question. And my next question is with respect to the strategic plan. There seems to be a lot of tasks in there that are directly related to this curriculum development task. One of them was I expected to see some scope and sequence communicated to the parents at the beginning of the school year, specifically with respect to curriculum, and I haven't seen that. I see that the board is supposed to be reviewing the plan quarterly, and the copy that's on the website is dated January, so that doesn't appear to be getting done. So there's a lot of accountability in that I'm concerned is not being addressed by the board, and I'm afraid it's going to result in a step backwards for a lot of the progress we've made. In fact, I believe that our kneecap scores last year are down, and our ranking was down with respect to the previous 2 years. So, the board is supposed to be reviewing that data quarterly. My question is, when's the last time you looked at that, and is that true, or is it just a misunderstanding on my part?
I think that's wrong, but I think that there was one section that was down.
Science? Are you talking science?
The ranking.
We'll be going through that tonight, as a matter of fact.
Science.
Yeah,
But
the science and math.
the strategic plan, we have had it on the agenda. We are having a workshop on it coming up. we have been filling superintendent positions and assistant principal positions and all kinds of other financial administrator positions, and we can only do so much. And we've actually, we've had extra meetings. We've been meeting at 4:30 in the afternoons for like the last couple of months at least. It's in our sights, the strategic plan, and we do touch on it when we're doing the things we're doing. Obviously, hopefully we're not coming to meetings at 4:30 and not doing something with the strategic plan. But you're right. The thing on the website's January. I know there's an April one that is up there. I don't know why I can't put things on the website, but we'll try to get to it. And the scope and sequence, it's not on the agenda tonight, but I was under the impression it was out to all the parents, scope and sequence. So we may need to revisit that as a board with the school to find out what's up with that. Because I had heard parents tell me they did get it. So I'm not real clear on that myself, to be honest with you.
It's grade level, isn't it? The scope and sequence, is that what you're talking about, where the teachers at the beginning of the year give, this is what your kid's gonna learn in my class? Is that what you're talking
I
about?
know I got one, but I think the teacher was from, but I didn't get one for one of the classes.
We will definitely follow up on that, Jeff,
And one
because
last
we
thing.
were under the
One last thing, I know communication is like this perennial goal, it was when I was on the board, I'm sure it's now one. And I feel that the website is an important tool. It's what I rely on, pretty heavily, or used to anyway, to stay in touch with what's going on in the school. And I find that it's woefully inadequate. I think, Mr. Goff, can you answer that?
Mr. Goff.
If you go to the 7th and 8th page, Mr. Goff.
Boy, it's changed.
So, I feel like, the parents are such this huge resource that if we lose parent support, we lose a lot because, I think the best districts, the best performing districts in the state are ones that have this huge support of the parent, to support their kids. So I see that as a tool to help kind of foster that and make it stronger. So, when it comes time to, I don't know how much it costs to upgrade that or get it up to speed, but I'd like to see it, not just something that, we don't have any money this year and we're gonna table that again, because it's happened. That goes back to pre-Mrs. Killen, and it's just, I don't think it's meeting the needs of the district anymore.
I'd also like to say, as far as the strategic plan, the work of the curriculum committee, which is part of the strategic plan, was supposed to start in the fall of 2010. So, and it is, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was part of my insistence that we finally got the thing going. So we were a little bit way behind schedule, but we did get it going. There was some.
I thought that was already done, and I thought.
No, it had never been done. As part of the strategic plan, it's supposed to start in 2000. It was supposed to report in the fall of 2011. It never was done. It never was convened. So that's one reason why we're behind.
Not so sure about that.
We need to update it on the website at the very minimum right now, even though the website is woefully inadequate. I appreciate your comments, Jeff. I've got notes.
It's hard for me to be critical of the school, because I love it, and I love the people working in it.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I came in late too.
Oh, Jen,
Sorry.
where do you live, Jennifer Rydeen?
I just wanted to say real quick, and I'll try to be brief, with budget season coming up, I'm just, as I'm standing here, I'm remembering, a letter by the teachers in the spring about morale at the school, and, with having kids in the school, that definitely directly affects the parents. We don't want the morale to go down. We really have this great community. I love Fremont. When I moved here, I never thought I would, but I really do. I think it's a great town. I think we have great people. I really think that with great leadership and effective communication, we can make this town a great town. We can keep it a good town. I think we all would love a peaceful budget season. I don't know if that will happen. But I just really hope that, the board will keep it in mind that morale is an important thing, and it does affect everyone. I'd really love to see this town just flourish, and I look to our leaders to, encourage that and work with us, because we are all so willing to work with everyone that leads our town, so thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. Information items, the administration reports. Superintendent's report.
First of all, I'd like to introduce Ms. Susan Penny, our new our new financial administrator. She has buried herself in her office under a pile of stuff, and occasionally she's a little pale, but occasionally and she's working very hard on the budget, getting numbers in for now. And just looking down the list, I wanted to update personnel. Sarah Krebs let me know today that they have found someone to fill her position. She'll be sending the candidate up to me shortly. And Sue pointed out I had a error of month in the NHSA training. I'm not going on the 15th. I went last month, the September. And just to update the regular information out at the end about the grants, I emailed Andy on this over the weekend. There's a $2 million STEM grant coming out from HP that we of course will not be able to access, but it's specifically for schools to do STEM projects in their towns. And again, because we can't accept funds.
Unanticipated revenue.
Unanticipated revenue, thank you. We can't access the grant, so I will add it to the list.
Is that for this year?
Yes, it is.
It would be released this year, the
Yeah,
grant?
we had,
Or would it
October
be released next-
31st,
October
the
31st.
application has to be in by October 31st.
For next year?
Well, no, it's this year's grant. It'll be given, it's not on the school year, it's on whatever you,
Right,
Yeah.
whatever calendar year they have.
yeah.
Now, we did,
So does it matter when it's released?
What do you mean when it's released?
So if they gave it to us in July, and we put this into our revenue for next year when we're doing our budget,
Voted on it?
then if we received it in July,
Right.
we could take it, correct? If it was in the budget for revenue?
I suspect that it would not look good to this town if it was voted down and we had to deny it. I really caution the board against
I see what
applying
you're
for
saying.
funds that are awarded and then you have to say, no, we can't take it.
Gotcha.
It screws up the
Yeah.
taxes.
Well, it's a grant though, so it doesn't.
Yeah, time is revenue.
Yeah.
But you have to spend it.
You wouldn't have the money to expend.
Then you wouldn't spend it, and it wouldn't affect, right?
Yeah.
I'm just asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, we did discuss at one point, I know, having trying to accumulate all the grants. The problem is it's hard to have
It's in the report.
a special, yes, hard to have a special town meeting, yeah, when we're not guaranteed the funds.
Right, and
So that's probably.
frankly, I think the Superior Court would frown on it.
Right.
Can we make
Right.
an exception, accept the question before she's?
I'm dancing in my seat.
Okay, go ahead, Angela.
It's just a question.
Yeah.
We keep talking about the grants coming up, and so question is the school board entertaining putting that as a motion,
Another warrant
whatever?
article again?
Warrant
Yeah.
article, okay. And is there anything that we can do from a community standpoint to help
Signs in
assist
your
with
yard
that?
that say vote yes on warrant article number, whatever.
Okay, so just, okay.
Yeah,
But I
at
think
the
it's-
deliberative session, we most likely will be putting up a list of all the grants we couldn't access because of that warrant article.
But will it be coming from the school board? Because I think it's really important for the community to know that the school board is not behind this, and to actually see, look at all this money that we could have taken, that because of this one article, we can't now.
Right.
Just, you
Yeah,
know.
but with SB 2, you have to remember that you only have 150 people in that room, and you've got 900 people going to vote.
I know, but
Well,
at
hopefully
the,
we
but
can
at
do a
the same
mailing.
time, I mean, we tried to get the word out last year, and I just feel like they didn't hear, and not because the school board didn't say it. I just feel like there was other communication going out against it, and maybe not specifically something from the school board saying, here's all the grant money that we could have done that would have given you this much money back.
We keep track of it last year.
Yeah.
We're keeping track of it.
Okay, because I just think it's gonna make a huge difference if people know what they're actually voting on. Because they like to just go in and vote now.
Okay. So is that it? That's
That was
it. Okay, principals report. John?
Any questions?
Yeah, quick, this is the last year of the kneecap, is that
Not science.
not science, we're doing kneecap again next year? Okay, I'll be honest with you, I was disappointed not only, I mean, with the Fremont results, but the statewide results, because we're pretty consistent with the statewide results. We're only about 1% of the students, if I read it correctly, only about 1% of students statewide were highly proficient. Did I read that correctly? Which,
In what?
in science.
Science, okay, thank you.
And that, to me, is unacceptable. You know,
For the state?
Yes, for the state and the fact that we're, you know, I mean, we're the same. And we're,
I think
Yeah.
there are issues with the test. If you saw
Yeah,
the
okay.
inquiry task, they had to do measurements and scales and so
Mhm.
forth, and it was a cardboard cutout
Right,
of things, and Mr. Herman had showed it to me, and I don't see how they could get accurate results.
all right.
So the fourth grade teachers had also told me that they thought if they worded the question differently, I think, we are, and I think what's good about, even though our fourth graders are a little down this year, it's different groups,
Right.
we are getting in line with the state. Our eighth graders have gone up, so we are teaching the standards, maybe they're getting better with the test,
Right.
there could be a lot of different factors, but there's,
And my concern is that kids who are talented in that area are being missed. They're doing a great job with kids who are struggling in science and math and bringing them up, but the kids who are talented are being missed. Because those are the kids who should be showing up and highly proficient. And they're not only being missed in this school, but they're being missed throughout the state. You know, and we're spending so much time bringing the struggling kids up, we're not paying enough attention to the kids who have natural ability in this area. And I think as far as the future of this country, we have to develop our scientists and our mathematicians. I mean, that's, you know, you want good people to build our bridges and send, you know,
Okay.
spaceships to Mars, so.
I guess I'd like to hear from John. John, I thought you were gonna talk a little bit about
Yeah,
this tonight.
yeah.
Like, what do you think about the science
I-
kneecap? How did we do? What are our plans for the future? I mean, you
That
reported the
wasn't-
data, so,
I was voted that I wasn't even gonna be. I mean,
All right.
usually what we've done is I submitted
Actually,
my
you're-
report, and then, what happens then is like, if there were any questions, that was the guidance I had been
okay,
giving in the past.
you weren't voted
So I
to-
wasn't basically planning on
All right.
giving a what's for the future. I mean, we did talk about science needs, we are working on the science curriculum mapping. We have put in proposals for science lab that we're looking at for next year. I think that the lowest in the state is science inquiry, if you looked at the charts that were in there, and that's across the state, and also in the school. Inquiry is done in a lab. And I think that would help, as I said, it was a very, rudimentary thing that the kids had to work with, and I didn't see how they could get effective results.
Can I make a recommendation? You know, John isn't prepared to speak to what he would like to do tonight. What we had asked him tonight to be prepared to speak to was that discipline question.
All right.
So, and he put that in his report. If you would like him to come and do a report to you specifically on science and plans for science, I would suggest that you ask for that, and then we'll put that on the agenda for another
I
day.
think we have a calendar, right, John, of when you're gonna report to us on
Data.
achievement data?
It's data.
Okay,
All right.
The only thing that you
Oh.
don't have is
I'm sorry.
Specify.
Okay,
NWEA.
we'll clarify with you what we expect, other than just
Yep.
seeing a graph or a chart. But,
I would like to see him come back and talk to us about, what exactly the plans are for the science curriculum in the school.
Will we hear it next week during the budget?
Probably, well,
Not curriculum.
Yeah, not curriculum per se. And I wouldn't add it to the next agenda because it is the budget night,
Right.
but perhaps November
Mhm.
would be,
November
then
sounds
you could
fine.
support.
Sounds good.
Okay. So you're gonna handle with that, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, I just want to add that, we're performing on par with the state. So, I mean, that's certainly clear, so.
I don't know if it's appropriate to add this right now, but if there's time for a non-public session, so that I could address some other issues with the board, I'd like to do that.
Sure.
Okay, we have non-public tonight, later on.
Thank you.
All right, discipline. Did anybody have any questions with John's report on discipline?
The only thing that, and I brought this up, not exactly, because I think they're doing a great job with PBAS and discipline, but the one thing, that my concern about PBAS that I brought up, I think, last meeting, is that it's a behavioral modification plan, but I'm wondering whether kids are getting a sense of the sort of ethical and moral behavior that, is essential, that is essential as they grow older and be part of a successful society. I wonder just little things like, are they reading moral works? Are they being presented with Bill Bennett's Book of Virtues? Are they reading Marcus Aurelius's diary? Are they looking at Ben Franklin's autobiography, where he talks about how he developed his own character? The ideas of Thomas Jefferson, George Washington, and the list he drew up of what it meant to be a gentleman. It was over 100 characteristics of a good gentleman he sought to develop in his own life. Are kids being exposed to that type of moral thinking, to go along with just the behavioral modification of PBAS?
I guess it's a tough question to answer on the fly.
You're right. I'm just a rhetorical question.
I did attend a workshop on morality and discipline, but that's when I was in the Catholic school system, so. And it was actually Sister Mary Peter, I remember. Very good workshop.
How long is the rule is?
Yeah, but I also attended a class on caregiving, which I thought was gonna be a waste of my time, because there were nurses and all this stuff. I'm like, what does this mean? And I have to tell you that we did a lot of research on Nell Noddings and so forth, and she also came to our class. And that, I have used that class in all the research that I've done on caregiving throughout a lot of what I do with discipline and a lot of what we do, because it's not about rules, it's not about programs, it's about culture, it's about consistency, it's about making the kids happy, making the staff happy. And if they're happy, it's about their needs too. There are many theories out there. Control theory, it's about their needs for food, happiness, and socialization, so forth and so on. There are lots of, we could talk about this all night.
No, there's been a tremendous, improvement in the atmosphere of the school the last 2 years. And I think,
The kids are successful. They're
Right.
feeling successful. They don't put down their school anymore.
Right. Right.
I haven't heard it.
No, and I think you need to be commended for that, because you've been part of it.
I liked the description of how you explained what happens with discipline now. It isn't always that clear to us, I don't think. Did anybody else have any other questions for John on that?
You explained it.
Okay. Thank you, John. All right. This is special education from Sarah. The only question I had is if we could get a copy of the entire survey results as a board? The parent involvement survey?
Okay, yeah. In fact, I was able to get that I requested that from the DOE on a spreadsheet so I could sort it.
Right.
And I sent it, I prioritized it and sent it back to Sarah with six particular areas to work on with her staff.
Mm-hmm.
So I will get that to the next board.
My only concern about this, I mean, you know, about the survey, I know you talked about the difficulty getting people to participate. And when you do a survey like this and, you know, looking for volunteers to submit it, you're not getting a good cross-section, you don't know what kind of cross-section of parents we get. So results are actually
Very
skewed.
Yeah.
And so it's really hard to take this and say, is this real or is it not real? I mean, they might wanna think of doing things in the future of like doing a phone survey, calling people up, taking a random sample, and that way you're getting, and looking at making sure we get a cross-section of parents, you know, whose kids are involved here, so we can get, I think, more accurate
You
results.
can still use the data. I mean, basically, it will show a trend. You know, these areas are very positive, these areas are not. And so, even if it's, you know, this is a random group of maybe the people who are most upset, you still should look at those areas that the people are most upset.
Right,
So, you know, that's what we're using it for.
right. But unfortunately, when you do a survey like that, the people are upset and more apt to
Absolutely.
respond. And you
But-
might have 20 people who are perfectly happy and they don't send it in
That's
because
okay,
they're
they're still
satisfied.
customers and
Right.
they should be responded
Right.
to. So we still have to work with people and do our best to meet their needs.
Mhm.
So.
Any other questions about the special ed?
No.
And technology director, she looks like she's pretty busy.
Yeah, she is. She's paler than Sue.
And it looks like we've had some glitches.
Yeah, I still think that I'm
Are they still having access issues where the network's going down within the school?
I'm sorry, what?
Are you guys still having issues where your network's going down?
I believe it's a Comcast issue.
Yeah, we had a Comcast, so the Pizza House was down too for some time, so it's not just here, it's.
It's still going on.
It happened 2 days in a row, it hasn't happened since.
Okay.
There are, I don't know if she addressed it in her report, but,
This was before that happened, so.
oh,
When
okay.
they check this
I know
out-
that part of the thing is we're looking to upgrade the internet, you know, the bandwidth and so forth, and she's working on proposals for that because we are on a free account. So part of the issues that we had calling the other day was they thought we were private residents, and we're not. So we kept getting pushed back and forth to different committees. So.
Are the phone systems tied to the internet?
Yes,
Yeah,
No,
they're
no.
down
to
here,
Comcast, they're the same thing.
to Comcast, they're, yes, they're through the Comcast system.
Maybe when we look at it, just giving like a single bandwidth to when it's down, you still be able to call out.
People have phones, you know, we were able to get through the day, we did a lot with our own cell phones.
Okay, this is obviously a budget issue.
Right.
We'll talk about that another time. Anybody else have any questions for technology? Okay. The only thing, we need to do the tech committee at some point. I don't know if Carla has that on her radar, but
When I meet with her next, I'll talk to her about that. We had discussed it at the beginning of the year, but just, like, I think we need to probably skip the first quarter, because it's supposed to be quarterly, just so she gets
If we
adjusted.
can not.
And then maybe do it the second, huh?
If we can try not to do it on Wednesday.
Well, if we skip the first quarter, then,
Oh yeah, just whatever day we do, try not.
yeah, okay.
building report from Mr. Brown. Any questions?
Obviously, moving forward with the generator quotes.
That's going to, the generator grant is going to take a large body of people. It isn't
Okay.
something that can be simply done by two people. I need to speak with the selectmen, the fire department, police department to coordinate that. So after the budget is in and done, I will move forward with that.
And financial reports. So Sue gave us a report. Did anybody have any questions about it?
Unfortunately, I started looking at it, I thought, was this last year's budget? And then I realized, no, after looking at it, it's not last year's budget. So,
That's good.
Yeah. I said, yes. A lot of money hasn't been spent in this last year's budget. Yeah, so.
Just one thing that, Sue, if you could check on at some point, line number 10, well, it's line number 113 on your report. 2140-5232, there's a weird expenditure there.
Hold on, line 113, did you say?
Yeah, 113.
Teacher's retirement.
The 472.90,
Yeah.
that is being taken care of.
Okay.
That was a question I had when I looked at the financials.
Okay.
We're getting a refund from Hampshire Retirement for that.
Oh, okay. Okay, so it is, it's not supposed to be there?
Nope.
Okay. And is all of this information about the
Well,
regular ed?
well, I can tell you that, what I've done is I contacted Sanborn and got a list from them of the number of students, and it differed from the number that's on the bill by 12 students. So I have a call into Carol to let her know that we're gonna be reducing our payment by about $39,250 per quarter. So,
Yes, we had 12 students that they were thinking were there that were not, and there were some special education students that they did not know about that need to be paid for. So we're gonna adjust the bill and pay appropriately according to what
I missed that, that was Sanborn?
that's what Sanborn did.
Sanborn.
And from what I could tell about the list, cause Yvonne and I kinda
Do you wanna hand that out?
worked one-on-one today,
Just give me the
Oh,
bunch.
so the one in the packet is update,
Yeah.
This is an update.
Okay.
It appears that some of the students that they were billing us for actually never went to Sanborn, like, they went to St. Thomas, or they went to Newburyport High School, and then they were also billing us for the,
ALP.
yeah, the ALP. They
Okay.
had been in the bill when they should not have
They were
been.
wrong places.
What is it?
Okay, that
The
explains the
advanced
245.
The alternative learning program.
So we've moved everybody back to where they should be, and we're basically going to ask them for an updated invoice.
Yeah, I just know in the,
That's a relief.
in the teacher retirement lines, in a number of areas, there seem to be, there seemed to be a surplus. I don't know if it's because it hadn't all been encumbered yet, or whether
Like,
we
for
just.
instance, give me,
I should have put
Well,
that, put the page.
He's line 11. It would be one instance where,
Right,
yep,
Yeah,
I'm not sure, I can look into it.
yeah, it seems every, in all, in the in every single budget section, the retirement line, there's
I wonder if they used a different rate, I
a,
don't
yeah,
know.
it could be, it
I'll
could be
have
used
to
the
look.
wrong way, that we could have over budgeted, it's not all encumbered, so.
And it should be.
It
The-
should
The
be.
system,
Right.
allows it, and your variance isn't that great, in the salary line that would warrant that.
Right.
Okay,
Well, you know what some of it is, though, I can tell you right now, though, looking at this, the way it's done, no, cause you wouldn't pay, I'm sorry, I take that back, you wouldn't pay New Hampshire time in, so I will look into it for you.
All right. The other question I have is $4,000 for electric and propane for the SAU, I mean, it's more than I pay for my house. So.
What are we doing?
Yeah, so why is it so, I mean, you're probably
Which
basing
line
it
are we
on.
on?
I should have put the line in. I apologize.
No, this is only my seventh day, so you
Yeah,
gotta
I
give me-
know. I used to have a number too. and-
are you looking for electric?
No,
It's line 249,
Yeah,
and it's 2320-5623.
I mean, we budgeted for it, and I'm looking back at it and saying, that's a lot to pay for electricity and propane for like a three-room.
I would like,
Yeah.
I have not seen whether or not the heating units and air conditioning units are setbacks. I
Right,
don't think they are. We've been manually turning them on and off when
Right.
we leave, and it would make a great deal of sense for us to put setback thermostats in
Right.
the two rooms.
mhm,
So I'm gonna check into that, hopefully
Right.
that will help.
Is it electric heat?
No, it's.
propane,
It's propane.
Oh.
But at the air conditioning, when I got here, the air conditioning was running all weekend. you know, so things like that shouldn't be happening.
Right.
Right.
So we need to look into getting setbacks set up.
What I
so
can
we
do is look
see
at
that.
what that line ran last year too,
Right.
Okay.
if you'd like me to.
I'm quite sure, yeah, to get it, I mean, maybe we could ask the, you know, the pro paint company what, you know, for someone, for our number of
What's
cubic
reasonable.
feet,
Yeah.
what space, what normally would they expect us to spend?
Well, I know there's not a lot of insulation. I can hear the phones buzz upstairs when they're on vibrate.
Well, maybe that's something
Yeah,
we think to do,
I
is put
can-
the.
It's going right up.
but we have drop ceilings in there, don't we?
I know.
No.
Yeah.
No,
All
no,
right.
yeah.
Last year we spent,
Oh, did you have last year?
Yeah. according to this, we spent $3,097.
That's a lot of money. For three rooms? Four rooms, yeah, it's a lot of money. Especially when you figure the conference room's probably not,
No, we don't
that's
use
turned
much.
down a
Yeah.
lot.
Well, unfortunately, the conference room and my room
Are on the same thermostat?
are on the same thermostat.
Ah.
Her room and Yvonne's are on the same. So that's the way it's set up.
All right,
It would make more sense to put the thermostat in my office
right,
and then let the conference room get cold.
right.
But it's not set up that way. I can talk to Scott about, or we'd have to talk to the
The
owner.
landlord, yeah, okay, that's one question.
So after these updated
Yeah.
numbers, is it still a deficit of 167 for the standalone?
No, there's, let's see, there's a positive variance of about $34,883. We have two, other tuitions, public high school tuitions going out of that line as well. They're mentioned in a memo, one for $10,293 and for $8,500. So there should be a positive variance of about $16,000 in that line if all
Which is
goes.
still very tight.
Yeah.
That's
You
one
probably
student.
don't know the answer to this, but I'm gonna ask anyways. Do you know if, we get a list of all the kids that graduate in January? Because I know they have a bunch that actually finish in January.
That should come through, and believe me, Yvonne knows everything, and everyone, and she is, you are very lucky, fortunate to have a person like her working in this district. She is such a stickler for detail. She will chase it down until it's perfect, absolutely perfect.
So, yeah, that's a good point, I can,
She makes pretty
there may be
spreadsheets,
another
too.
adjustment.
Yeah, she does, she
Um,
makes very pretty spreadsheets.
Yeah,
So on line 52, going back to some of the comments, the supplies fed line, that's negative? Should we worry that it's negative?
Let me see.
And so we got purchase orders in for it?
That may be because I don't know if there's anything coming from the grant in that, or no, it would already be.
yeah,
Yeah, that's,
that, I'll look into.
got notes on that.
Yeah.
Can you speak to the tuition private other line that's over like 25,000? Above that, the line right above that?
The line above
51.
What number?
51.
51. I cannot, so I will, it's sped tuition, private, no, I'm not sure. I'll look into that
High
one.
school, private another.
Yeah. I believe though it was a placement she got recently, now that I think about it. Remember, she came in with that new girl.
Yeah, but I'm not sure that would show up yet, unless you've already, when you
Unless-
sat down, you've already budgeted for it.
No, they may put a purchase order in to pay them, but I'll look into it.
Anything else from that?
Do you, so, well, along with the supplies, I'm looking off the top of my head, I don't know what they are. But are there other supply lines that we worry about not having enough money, and if we're hearing teachers don't have money for supplies, or just be careful to do all stuff?
Well, line 16 was budgeted 10,100, and we have encumbered 10,047 under supplies. So,
Yeah, they've only spent $52 so far today. Line 16,
So you have supplies?
yes,
Oh, that's good.
right, you've encumbered it all, but you've only spent 52 actual
We haven't
dollars.
received any bills
Yeah.
yet.
the purchase orders, right? Right.
Now, is that SES?
There was SES.
Yeah, so we haven't
Yeah.
gotten a bill from SES.
It's still coming in. The cuts they were referring to was that there were some items on there that I did have to cut because we were, what happened was we did put money back into the line That was the original proposal.
So are we short supplies or are we not short supplies at the school?
There are some things that teachers asked for that I had to cut. I mean, there were some things, and I think there was another submission, we're still looking at having money.
There's about
There's-
7,000.
There's always supplies that we could use. I know that at this point, I don't think I have any money in my regular ed line at all, really to. It's beginning of October, so I guess if somebody comes to me for something,
Do you mean for supplies?
anything,
There's 133 left over in your line.
$133.
$133,781.
What line is that?
Regular
It's the
ed,
regular
1100.
ed
Bottom
function.
You can
Oh,
move
sorry,
things,
sorry.
you know, if you can move something.
Isn't that high school tuition in there too?
Oh.
Yeah, but we just talked about that, there's only about 16,000 in that line available.
Well, I've been, anytime I've had to make any kind of purchase, I've had to make transfers of $5, $10 even.
No, a
for-
lot of these money that was in,
So I don't
Right.
know,
Well,
I don't know
to be
where the
fair.
167,000,
Most of it's moves and salary.
it's, to be
It's
fair,
in salaries,
to be
too.
fair, it's in subs and salaries, health
Yeah.
insurance,
It's not a lot of discretionary spending.
yeah, it's not.
So is
Right.
there still, I'm assuming you encumbered all the salaries, have you not? Up in the
Yes,
sub
they are,
salaries? Okay,
yep, and
so-
I've confirmed a lot of these too with the budget process.
So there's $32,000 left in retirement?
The retirement stipend, I'm really not sure what that's for. I
That's
have
for,
to-
if a teacher retires, we pay them a $10,000.
Oh, that's the
Okay.
retirement stipend,
Right.
line 11?
Oh, line 2, no, line.
No, line 11?
Oh, line 11.
Teacher retirement, regular ed, that would be.
That's one of the ones, Andy has asked me to look into.
Okay.
I have made,
It'd be nice if we're over budgeted that.
I'm not sure, maybe, because he said it happened in several functions. So it could be, I look at that budget, so I'm. But you're right, almost every function is quite a bit over.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we heard it from the audience that the supplies line had been cut in, what, half, did I hear somebody say?
I didn't give any, we didn't know how.
I wasn't,
What did that mean, like, what were they talking about?
we had 14,000 the year before. When Mrs. Langa presented her budget, to the board last year, she did a PowerPoint, and there were a list of things that she said she cut, and one was supplies. And there was $4,000 that was cut out of the supply line.
Dumb question,
Along-
that's
huh?
line 16?
Yes.
Okay.
And when the parents did their presentation, they used Mrs. Lange's PowerPoint to come up with that figure of what they wanted to put back in. And that was one of the items,
Do you know how much they wanted to put back in from there?
$4,000.
4,000.
I believe it was $4,000.
I have that, but I don't have it here.
Whatever it
Yeah.
was the year before, whatever it was the year before.
The year before was, supplies the year before, I have it right here. Were budgeted, 14,082.
Yeah, that would be 4,000
Mhm.
approximately.
Yep. 14,027. Yep. Yep. Okay. That's what I wanted to know. Any other questions about the financials?
One other thing I'll just turn your attention to though is in your packets, there was a budget transfer for, 23,775, I believe. There'll probably be another transfer as well from those same lines, now that I hear we've hired an aide. What I could tell from my analysis was those 3 positions in the 1,200 function, the teacher, the preschool teacher, and the aide, if I add the total dollars, it's what was presented last year, but for some reason, the line between the teacher and the aides got
switched.
Right, they put the money in the wrong line.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, we saw that I think
Okay.
last year.
All right, so that,
We were told it was gonna be fixed.
oh, okay, well, that's why I did the transfer this time, and now that I hear we've hired another really, I would probably transfer the remaining money to where it should be.
Request for a transfer.
Yep, that's fine.
I request is the way.
Can I just ask one more question on the supplies? So we have budgeted the 10,000 and it's already spent, as in it's already been used.
There's
and then-
purchase orders against it, that's what this encumbrance
And that's
column
for
means.
the year, and we're only in October.
Well, we only put the supply order in once a year, right, John? The SES order anyway,
The
the big order.
SES order.
Got it.
We found the answer to your question about what we had asked for at the deliberative session. Do you want me to go through it?
No, I have that
Okay.
form, I
Okay.
just didn't know from my memory what the supplies was supposed to be in.
The supplies, just called supplies, was $4,000, but there was other things in there like textbook, workbooks.
Yeah, those are in different
Science.
lines.
Okay,
The
okay.
internet upgrade,
Yep.
60,000 total.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? All right, enrollment report. We got the revised one. Did you give them to them? And so the ALPs on the bottom of this are not included in the 234 at the top. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So there's 234 regular high school students at Sanborn, and then there's 6 on alternate learning plans.
That is correct, yeah,
Do
240.
they give us a price for that? Or do they tell us how much this costs?
The AOP, I was told they wouldn't be in the bill at all, because they have, other places they go into for their learning program.
Oh, so this is like Exeter Adult Ed and.
That's correct.
Okay. Okay. Did anybody else have any questions about the enrollment? And Ellis School is now at
The numbers on this
424.
and what's in the agenda are the same, aren't they?
No, they're off ever so slightly, only by one person. See
Oh,
what she
alright.
means by Yvonne being totally.
Okay,
Nothing gets by.
go Yvonne.
And Alice is at 424 as of October.
Just catch up to that. Yeah, 424, and that is down from last year, right, about 14 students from last year?
We're
Well,
at projections.
the 8th grade class goes out and
Right.
the kindergarten class comes in,
Right.
everybody moves up. So
Right.
we were at 445
Yeah.
as of June 1st of last year.
Right, we had a big 8th grade class.
We projected 424 for the school year, so we're at our
Right,
projection.
right. Good projection.
Any other questions on that? Okay. Budget guidance from board to interim superintendent. Okay, guys. What's our guidance to the interim superintendent about the budget?
Isn't it a little too late to give them guidance now since they already have it together?
Oh, no,
Yeah,
we're still working through it.
We're WIP.
It evolves daily. I mean, we're not going to come in with, you know, we could just take everything that comes in and just give it to you. But if you want us to make some priorities to start, then let us.
I'd like to see the foreign language teacher, if you could. Me personally.
So we'll budget for a foreign language teacher.
Well, we're I mean, our budget went up, but our enrollment is down, and, significantly. I mean, so we should have, I don't know what the enrollment figure's gonna look like next year, because that's what we're looking at. So we should be able to make some improvements without significantly adding to the budget.
It depends on the distribution of the students, but we'll take a look at it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. I mean, we certainly, I think we do need to take a look at STEM. We need to take a look at what it would cost to put in a science lab. Whether, I think, you know, we could use the Frost Fund, if we're gonna make improvements, you know, we could take a look at that. If, you know, regarding, that's for educational improvements, we sort of could look at that if we need to buy equipment. I mean, those are some things I would like to see.
We will be paying off one.
So I was just looking at,
Right.
Should be 40 something?
Yeah.
reading my mind.
Right,
Debt service principal amount, I don't know which one we're paying off, let's see.
Top of my head, I don't know.
One of them is 17,265 for the year.
I think that's.
The small one is probably the one we're paying off, I
Right.
would imagine, because the other one's 265,
That's
and I don't
not-
think we're paying that off
that's
yet
one for
here.
the addition, that's not done yet.
So 17.
One's
Right.
this
I
year,
was
one's
wishing
next year.
Right.
Well, I don't know,
Yeah,
I think,
for this year and
one,
next year.
right, it's one this year, one next year.
Yeah, like I've mentioned several times, I mean, we've talked about having a special meeting of the school board to talk about, you know, the future of the school. And like I said, there's this bond issue's coming up, we got the bond issue for the safety complex will be over. The bond issue for the library is gonna be paid off. There's gonna be a lot of extra money in the town. Now, if we're gonna look for improvements in our school plant.
Well,
now-
that doesn't all happen this year.
No, but we need,
It takes 3 years too.
yeah, it takes 2 or 3 years to plan, we need to start talking about that now.
You need the facilities.
Because
Right, but we're on the
they-
budget, let's
Alright.
give her some direction for this budget.
Right,
We
okay.
can talk about the future of our school at our
Well,
vision
you
meeting
might
that we're
wanna-
gonna have, our
you might
workshop,
wanna
our.
Consider
Yeah.
putting in a funding for a facility study, or at least some money in that line.
Right,
So
well, we
that
did have one, we already did have we had one.
We
could-
have
How
a
old is
facility
that?
study,
Yeah.
it's less than 10 years old.
Okay.
Right, and that's actually designed for more students than what we probably will have.
So, maybe I'd like to see a website, what would cost to
Right.
direct the website.
Website can be done not too expensively if you put together a committee to do the formulaic work and just have somebody then build it.
Right.
We did it over in SAU41 for about $3,000. We had someone on.
It's
the
really nice,
committee.
look it up,
Yeah,
it's really nice.
and it was
somebody
not
run
much
it?
better than what's here now when we did it.
Yeah,
Does somebody
I'd love
run
to
that
see
separately, or is it a teacher?
I ran it as the associate superintendent, I ran it, and we had the assistant principal, we had a teacher, we had a student, we had a parent, and school board member on it. And we met for about 8 months, weekly, and we built it
I
together.
think John meant who maintained it.
Oh,
Isn't
who
that what you were
maintains
asking?
it?
Yes.
John?
It depends. We have a manual that goes with it that has assigned people for who's responsible for posting agendas, who's responsible for maintaining the calendars, and it's divided among the staff. No one who was hired to do it.
You said 40 then?
SAU41, Hollisbrook Line. And the student designed the logo. We had a high
I remember you
school
saying
student.
that.
Yeah.
That's all.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll recess for 5 minutes and then be back.